Hello and a very good evening to all of you and welcome to this episode of the PEP Talk with me, your trainer, Sudeep Nag. Well, you've all heard about this term startup. It was a big buzzword and it is still a big buzzword. And as we speak in the pandemic, many of the people who are doing full-time jobs are now thinking of startups or being entrepreneurs. So there are a few aspects I want to present to you about startups in general, and also I'll touch up a little bit on virtual startups. So let us begin our presentation. If you allow me to share my slide, I will make it full screen for your better viewing. So we're talking about startups. Many of you are aware, as I said, it is and it was a big buzzword, in fact, a fashionable and an in thing amongst lots of youngsters and also people who were previously working, especially abroad, and come back to India and wanted to suddenly do a startup. So why should you, why should me, why should we all do a startup? That's the question. I have three important points which will tell us the important reasons for us to start up something. Startups can have a potential to change the world. That's true because in 2025 and beyond, it is estimated that people will no longer have a craving for jobs. Jobs will not be the in thing anymore. And the first preference, it will be being entrepreneurs, having startups. It's already started in the US and Europe, especially in UK many years back. And in India, certain cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, these have excelled in startups. And this is the reason, because keeping the future in mind of the global changes and the industrial changes and the work culture changes, I think the startups, and in this period of the pandemic, a lot of us, we have realized that virtual startups are so very important. So it can potentially change the world. Number two, a way to unlock human potential like never before, because a lot of people have a lot of ideas. And these ideas, if not brought in the front and tried out, this just die down. So somebody might have a great idea, but is in a government service or is doing a job in a private sector or corporate office, but has an idea. Now, this startup will unleash that potential in him and make his idea into reality. And number three is the opportunity to achieve limitless things. Just look at Uber. These companies started like a small startup. You talk about Flipkart, you talk about Oyo, you talk about Paytm, and there's so many examples can be cited of startups which have become limitless, operating in hundreds of countries across the world. So startups have 5 basic elements. If you are looking for a startup, a virtual startup, then 5 elements will definitely be of great importance to you. Number one, I'm not saying this is the priority list, but I'm saying one is idea. You need to have an idea. Now, it doesn't mean you need an original idea. Some of the companies I just spoke about, there were companies delivering online products, but it is the implementation part that I guess Flipkart and companies like Amazon did well. Similarly, you talk about Uber, they were transportation companies, but Uber revolutionized the thing. So it may not be an original idea, but you need an idea. Number two is you need a team. And in this situation, you need the concept of a virtual team. That's a very important key word. Again, this is not in a priority, but it is an important element. Number three is the timing of your startup, when you're going to start that particular idea. And number four is funding. Of course, what can be done without funding? So you need a certain amount of funding according to your plan. And number five is the business model. Definitely you need a business model. Otherwise, you are not knowing which direction you're heading. Now, if I list them in the priority way in terms of the importance, most important on top and least important, you will be really surprised that factors contributing for the success of this startup is number one is the timing of the startup. So that's so important. The moment you start, when you want to start. Number two is team. You need a team. You need a virtual team, like-minded people who understand the concept, because it's going to be something different, something new probably. Number three is the idea. Now this idea has to come, so brainstorming, that comes in at 28% at number three. Number four is, of course, the business model. You definitely need a business model, but then it's not topmost priority. It is not number four. And funding, of course, what can be done without funding? So that comes in at number five. So if I list it at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is timing, team, idea, business model, and funding. Now, why startup fail? Now, once you want to succeed, you must remember that there are pitfalls. And number one reason why some of the startups fail, and it's been considered from a research, that not providing solution by identifying problem. It's just the other way around. There was a problem. Uber saw that and they came up with this app cab. And similarly, the way Flipkart and Amazon started the business of e-commerce and sending the products to the doorsteps. And there was a problem in terms of pricing and a lot of things that customers used to face in the customer behavior and the way they were treated and the kind of products and the additional cost. So it really helped the customers, and you see the benefits in this pandemic. Number two is a lack of empathy study. So one needs to understand by studying before you start a startup that what the customer wants, what he feels about your product, what are the changes he wants, what are the suggestions the customer has. So many companies don't do this empathy study, and that could be a reason for failure. Number three is competition. You need to keep one eye on the competition, existing players in the market, because you are going to take up a particular market share really. So you need to keep a track and be one step ahead, out of the box thinking, and a little different from the rest of the competitors. So you need to keep an eye on that. Number four is not sustainable and continuous focus. It's almost like a college student joining a part-time job. No, I mean, if you do a startup, you need to dedicate yourself and keep that sustainable focus and continuous discipline. Because of these four reasons, it was seen that many of the startups which were initially very promising did fail. Some myths we need to understand. Number one is not all college dropouts will make it big and become big startups. I mean, you don't take examples of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. I mean, you go to Stanford and Harvard and then drop out, that's fine. But if you don't reach that much, then don't think of it. I mean, it's not absolutely true that if anybody, so don't drop out and then think that I'll be do a startup and become big shot. No, that won't happen really. Number two is I want to be on my own and don't want any bosses. I'm my own boss. That attitude is absolutely incorrect, because in a startup, right from the customers to your team members, to the investors, they're your boss. So you'll have more number of bosses at the end of the day. Number three is a fashionable and in thing. So, if you only want to experientially learn from failures and not afraid of these failures and do something different and face the world, then you do a startup. You have the passion, not because it's a fashionable thing everyone is doing and it's something a buzzword. I need to do that. And number four is I want to contribute and change the world. Now, this is not about changing the world really. I mean, in that sense, it's about multiplying your investor money. It's about business, reaching out to customers, having customer base, market share, and selling of products and turnover and revenue. So you need to keep that as a focus point. So these are some of the myths and we need to avoid. So I think I have put some very important insights for those of you who are at this moment looking to do a startup, or those who have already done a startup and become entrepreneurs, or you're looking for a virtual setup and virtual startups. This video will be of great importance to you. Do let me know that whether it was helpful for you, if you liked it or not, and please share, like, and comment. And wishing you a great day. Be well, be safe, and don't forget, keep smiling.